We have a production system where part of the animals are in a dry lot, as you can see here, and part of the animals are under a compost barn. What we are seeing here is the prepartum. On one side, we have the heifer herd, and on the other side, we have the cow herd. Well, in this particular case, this compost barn is managed with peanut shells. The compost lasts approximately 1 year, after which everything is renewed.
Welcome to the Santa Fe Agroinstitute channel. We are in Vila Maria at a dairy farm with agronomist Diego. Welcome, Diego, and please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Diego Bertea. I am an advisor in the animal feeding sector. Here we are at the Moncho Farm, which is located in the main dairy basin of the Argentine Republic, specifically in the province of Córdoba, in the Vila Maria area. The idea was to see various productive systems, the most common productive systems we have today in Argentina, especially in this developing dairy basin, which is gradually growing, migrating from traditional systems to more intensive milk production systems. Particularly at this farm, we have a production system where part of the animals are in a dry lot, as you can see here, and part of the animals are under a compost barn. What we are seeing here is the prepartum. The prepartum is managed with a controlled energy diet, as it is called, where approximately 30% contains wheat straw, corn silage, soybean meal, and we are using a concentrate that provides the protein part along with the anionic part. This is a growing system. Today, only the milking cows are under the compost barn. At this particular farm, the prepartum does not have a barn. It is a dry lot system, and once the cow, after calving, goes to the barn, but if not, it is a dry lot system. There are other systems that have everything from prepartum to milking cows and dry cows all under a barn. This farm usually has between 430 to 450 milking cows throughout the year. Due to the current season, we have a more advanced lactation, and most calvings will start from February next year. February, March, April, May, and possibly until June, most calvings will be concentrated.
And what is here? Where are we?
At one point, we were in the pre-calving area. Once the cow calves, it comes to the barn here. This is a compost barn divided into two sections. On one side, we have the heifer herd, and on the other side, we have the cow herd. Once the pre-calving cow or heifer calves, it comes to the barn and is housed with the heifers. At certain times of the year, the fresh cow herd remains outside, especially in winter. And when the temperatures are very high, it comes inside the barn with the heifer herd. Why are we doing this? Because we have limited space. The compost barn can accommodate around 250 to 260 cows, which is a limitation for this farm, considering it usually has between 430 to 450 animals in milking. Once the fresh cow period ends and the veterinarian gives the medical clearance, the heifer stays in the heifer section and the cow joins the cow herd. We have another dry lot system in front, which we can see here, where all the cows with advanced pregnancies from the barn are moved, always respecting the number of cows in the barn. Once the cow completes its reproductive and productive cycle, it dries off and joins the dry cow herd.
Is the diet here the same as over there?
No, we are managing two diets, one for cows and heifers. At this time, the heifer herd has a diet aimed more at fresh cows, and the third herd, which consists of cows with advanced pregnancies where the production curve starts to decline, has a diet with slightly more controlled energy.
What are the most important phases you focus on in the cow? Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4? What are those phases?
In terms of phases, Phase 1 would be the dry cow. I usually work a lot on the transition period, which is Phase 2, the pre-calving period, and Phase 3, the post-calving period. Depending on the system we are working with, in this case, the barn is a limitation. We have a certain number of cows available to be housed in the barn, so we have to manage the movement of animals between fresh cows, considering their production and pregnancy, especially moving them to the dry lot.
How many feedings do you do per day? How many times do you serve the food?
Here we are distributing the food twice a day And in this period with higher temperatures, we sometimes distribute the food 2 or even 3 times a day to prevent the food from getting too hot. Here we can see that the barn has a cooling system in the feeding alley, which is currently programmed to start every 30 minutes and operates for 5 minutes each time.
How is the heat stress here? How does it work? Is there a lot of it in the summer? How is it in Argentina?
Well, particularly this year and the last, the heat has been quite strong. Today it is cool, but we had a rather challenging week with temperatures above 40 degrees. Compared to your climate, this is a drier climate, so we manage it better due to the lower ambient humidity. It gets very hot, but the heat is generally drier. Here, feeding is managed based on silages, mainly corn silage, and we also use alfalfa silage, alfalfa mega bales, or hay for forages, always aiming for the best quality possible within the climatic conditions. Last year was quite dry, with very scarce rainfall, which affected the quality of the feed. For concentrates, we are working with cottonseed, ground corn, and soybean meal. In some specific herds, such as the cow and heifer herd, we are also using protected soybean meal.
How do you manage feeding when the price rises, when an input becomes more expensive?
Well, currently, we are in a buy-sell price situation for raw materials, especially concentrates. The dairy industry here in Argentina relies heavily on byproducts derived from soybeans, and currently, due to economic issues, the price has increased significantly. Therefore, we have to adjust to manage the costs, which is not easy at the moment.
How is the compost bedding managed here?
Well, in this particular case, this compost barn is managed with peanut shells. The compost lasts approximately 1 year, after which everything is renewed. Last year, we typically used around 4.5 to 4.7 kilos of peanut shells per animal per day. The daily management of the barn involves 2 passes with a chisel plow and then a pass with a rotavator, done once in the morning when the cows go out for milking and later in the afternoon when they go out again. We take advantage of the barn being empty to perform this task. In the dry lot system during this period, we have a shading system where we also do a daily scraping of the corral, and in the shaded area, we use a chisel plow to loosen the bedding so the cows can rest comfortably.